Okay, so we just covered absolute value equations, and now we want to move on to absolute value inequalities. And again, if you understand the graph, then the formulas make sense. So just to really quickly do it again, to get it fixed in your brain, my absolute value graph is the V right here. And now suppose I want to know where the absolute value of x is less than 5. What does that mean? Essentially, I can treat this like a y value, and I want to know all the places where the y value of that is less than 5, correct? So I could graph the line, y equals 5, right here. And now, where is that graph less than 5? Well, it's everywhere under the line, right? Which essentially means, because we do this in terms of x, it's this x value over to that x value and everything in between. I am assuming that it's obvious that if this is a line y equals 5, and that's the absolute value, what x value is that? What x value that's over here at negative would intersect the line y equals 5? Negative 5. So this is the x equal to negative 5. This is the x equal to positive 5. And we want all the x's between them. Which means maybe we could do something like negative 5 is less than x is less than 5, right? We do the less than thing because that's a less than right there. It's not a less than or equal to. Make sense based on the graph? Well, good. Then suppose I want the absolute value of x to be greater than 5.
Everything above the line.
Everything above the line. And what's the problem here? We get two different intervals, right? Because essentially, all the x's out here will give me y's greater than 5, and all the x's out here will give me y's greater than 5. Correct? Which means before I got one interval, now I get two. And what's that interval? Well, let's see, we know that's still 5, so it's all the x's bigger than 5, or these are all the x's less than negative 5. And I get two solutions. Is the idea pretty clear? Okay, your book gives the algebraic way to write that out, which I will actually write out in a second, just like the definition of the absolute value. But if you understand the principle, it makes more sense. Just think about the graph. If you want it less than 5, then you want the interval from negative 5 to 5. If you want it greater than 5, then you have to go outside in both directions, which means you have to be less than the negative or greater than the positive. And that's all the rule says. If the absolute value of x is less than a, then negative a is less than x is less than a. Which is what we did with 5. If the absolute value of x is less than 5, negative 5 is less than x is less than 5. Second part. If the absolute value of x is greater than a, then x is greater than a, or x is less than negative a. Again, if the absolute value of x is greater than 5, x is greater than 5, or x is less than negative 5. And that's it. Technically speaking, there are two other rules associated with this. When this is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, nothing changes, just make those less than or equal to's or greater than or equal to's, right? I don't have to rewrite those. Does the principle make sense? Yes? So if you have an absolute value inequality, what do? Isolate the absolute value, because that's the thing causing the problem, and then apply one of these rules. So, suppose we have absolute value of 3x minus 2 is less than 11. Isolate the absolute value, It's already isolated. So now apply the rule. Absolute value is less than a means negative a, in this case negative 11, is less than 3x minus 2 is less than 11. Now that's just a compound inequality. Solve it like a compound inequality, right? Add 2 to all three of them. Negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9, is less than 3x, is less than 11 plus 2, which is 13. And then divide the 3. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3, is less than x, is less than 13 over 3. And we're done. Here's my solution. You can write that in set builder notation. You can write it in interval notation. You can draw a number line. I don't really care. If you can get that, I'm fine with that. For the purposes of this class, that's okay. Does it make sense? Okay, then one more. Two times the absolute value of x plus 4 minus 3 is greater than 11, because I wrote 11. So what do? Isolate the absolute value, add the 3, 2 times the absolute value of x plus 4 is greater than 11 plus 3, which is 14. Still isolating the absolute value, so divide the 2. Absolute value of x plus 4 is greater than 14 divided by 2, which is 7. Now you have the absolute value isolated. Now apply the rule, right? Since this is a greater than, we get x plus 4 is greater than 7, or x plus 4 is less than negative 7. Correct? And now solve both. Subtract the 4 here. We get x is greater than 7 minus 4, which is 3. Subtract the 4 here. We get x is less than negative 7 minus 4, which is negative 11. And there's my solution. X is greater than 3, or x is less than negative 11. Again, if you want to write it in interval notation or set builder notation or whatever, it's up to you. For the purposes of this, I'm fine with that. Just be aware, you cannot write that as one interval. You cannot do that for that one, what we did here, and have a chain like this, a compound inequality. Those are two separate intervals. You cannot write them as one. In the past, students have done things like, I have trouble writing this because I can't write it wrong. I think you do x is either less than negative 11 and greater than 3 or something like that. That doesn't work. If you did it the other way, x is greater than 3, I can't even write it wrong. X is greater than 3, but less than negative 11. I don't even know. Okay? It doesn't work. You cannot write it as one inequality. Students always try to do it. You can't. This one gives me two separate inequalities. That's it. Do not even try to write them as one because you can't. Any questions? Pretty straightforward? I will reiterate, as I've said several times at this point, you have to remember these rules right here. You can't solve the problems without the rules. You end up only getting half your solutions, which means you only get half credit when you do the exam. So make sure you actually remember the rules and apply them. Okay, good.